EP.
So it means that we should do it
Do.
every day for 2 minutes.
You can already do it for 2 minutes.
If like we put in our regular, like for the
Okay.
daily activity, like for the recommend to the people, if you can do the act every day for 2 minutes, we can build core muscle or like maintain core muscle.
Okay. I would say that if you can do a 2-minute plank, you don't need to do them anymore. Remember what the goal of a strength and conditioning coach, teacher is? What's the goal? First slide I had up there.
improve performance
Improve performance. Now, if you can already do a 2-minute plank, there's no improvement in your performance possible. So why would I go do another 2-minute plank? I can already do it.
What we should do next so after we
So
I mean
it
we
should take
yeah
longer. Take longer. Or maybe delete the point. This is like 4 point, and then delete is like 3 point.
I see.
To
Yeah.
increase is
You
more difficult.
mean like this?
yeah
You can do that if you wanted. But I only need this. I only need 2-minute plank. I don't need to be able to do this. That might make my core stronger, but I don't need a stronger core. It's already as strong as it needs to be. That doesn't make sense to anybody, does it? You understand what I'm saying?
okay
How often do you do planks? Here's my point. Tree just proved my point. Okay? She can do a plank like a statue. Okay? She's just like a rock. But she never does planks. Okay? How do you do that? How do you maintain this ability to do a 2-minute plank, but you never do planks? How is that possible? You have no
We can
idea.
retain other activity.
What is the other purpose for our core? The other purpose. One is to stabilize the spine. What's the other purpose of the core? Come on. You can do it. What's the other purpose?
ก็เหมือนการทำหน้าที่อะไรอีก stabilize สปายแล้วทำอะไรอีกแรง force transfer
Yes.
Transfer the movement.
To transfer the forces from one engine to the next. If I'm a baseball pitcher, okay, I mean I'm doing this type of thing. The core is what's getting that force from my legs to my arms. A baseball pitcher never does planks. There's absolutely no reason for them to do planks because they're doing exercise that strengthens the core already. Okay? Now, the reason I'm saying that is like, we don't need to waste people's time. Okay? We just don't need it. We have a certain amount of time, particularly people that aren't professional athletes. And you need to use that time wisely. And if an activity doesn't improve performance, don't do it. Now you might come back later and let's say, I might come back in a month and ask Tree to do another plank for 2 minutes. Okay? Just to check on it, see how it's going. If she can do it, we're good for another 2 months. It's like going to the dentist. Okay? When do you go to the dentist? Every 6 months. He looks at your teeth, looks good, come back in 6 months. All right? You don't have to go back every day to the dentist. No? Okay? So if it doesn't improve performance, you don't need to do it.
เห็นไหมฮะ ก็คือเพราะฉะนั้นไอ้กิจกรรมท่าออกกำลังกายอะไรที่มันไม่ก็เรียกทำแล้วมันไม่ได้ช่วยในเสริมสร้างพัฒนาที่ดีขึ้นแล้วก็ ไม่ควรจะเลือกนะมาใช้
So most of you don't have to do planks. Now some of you, I want you here tomorrow at 7 o'clock in the morning, and we're going to do planks. Okay? No. We don't need back here. How many of you do sit-ups as part of your training? Anybody do sit-ups? Any?
ไปซิทอัพนะครับในโปรแกรมออกกำลังกายใช้ซิทอัพไหมฮะปกติในนักกีฬาบ้างใช่
Why do you do sit-ups?
ทำไมฮะถามว่าทำไมเราถึง recommend sit up สำหรับให้นักกีฬาทำ
As part of a warm-up? Okay, that's a good idea. We're going to talk about that later when we talk about warm-ups. What does a sit-up do for you? Trunk flexion.
For the warm-up, sometimes some strain, you need it, like a core strain than more than pain.
You think that the sit-up is harder than a plank. So the sit-up is better for the core than the
The
plank.
difference for the plank is like you stay still, but sit-up you have to with flexion and extension. It's similar to movement.
Okay, that's key. You want to do exercises that are similar to the movements that you normally do in your activity. What activity are you thinking about that does this?
We have to do like when you play basketball, we have to because
Oh yeah, you do this when you basketball?
no, but not normal, but we have to make it call to do flexion and extension.
Why? You don't do that in basketball.
So we have to move in for some position. We don't do it all the time, but we have to do like when we grab the ball, when we rebound, and we have to do it.
I'm going to argue with you, okay, that I can play basketball without any flexion and extension of my spine. If I want to lean over and get the ball, I want to hip hinge. I'm not going to do this. And if I'm jumping in the air, I'm going to keep it a flat back. I don't need to arch and extend.
But sit-up is gonna do like a hip movement, not a back movement.
How about rowing? Rowing. So you have to break and extend.
Still confused.
I understand, but when we do sit-up, like we move the hip, but not we do on the back stage, but we don't do on the sit-up, right?
You don't?
Yeah.
You keep the back flat when you do a sit-up? Show me. Okay, but you're not flexing the spine. You're not using the abdominals for anything but
they do hip
core
joint.
muscles.
Oh, okay. I get your point. And you mean like we do like rectangle flexion, like to do yeah. Okay.
Remember what I used to do? I'm up here because I'm higher so you can see, not because I like the couch. Remember what we used to do with our legs straight? And then people said, no, don't do them with legs straight because the psoas major is involved. And all you're doing with the legs straight is strengthening hip flexion. So we told you to bend the legs, right? And when we bent them, no longer psoas major, right? So now it's all hip flexion or abdominal flexion. Okay? So then we started doing this. They said, no, don't pull on your head because you cause cervical flexion, right? And then we started doing these things to strengthen the core, okay? And as I was trying to argue with Paul is that when do we ever do this during sport or during exercise? Maybe yoga, I don't know. But this isn't something we do. And what she just did there, she was doing basically hip flexion. She was strengthening her hip flexors while she was maintaining a stable spine. She wasn't doing any of this. So she changed the exercise, or her coach did. They changed it to a hip flexor exercise while you contracted the core. And I'm gonna suggest that do the planks. It's easier. You get the same effect, maybe even more, and you don't put yourself at risk for changing the exercise when you get tired, right? Because you know that when you got tired, you started cheating a little bit. Remember when you did those? Your coach said, no, 100 more. Oh, you started cheating.
So how about the machine and the trunk function?
I would never get into a machine in which you do this, right? You got exercise machines that you do, I don't know, whatever you do, but it's a flexion machine against resistance. Okay? And we talked about, remember the guy doing the swan dive? I said, it's okay to get in a swan dive position if you're not under stress, if you're not underweight. You get into these machines and you basically put your disc at risk every time you push, and then you push even greater weight, pushing you down. Those things are just death. If you ever see anybody in those machines, grab them and pull them away. Or call the ambulance or something. Call the fire department. Those have a big X on them, if you ask me. Those are ridiculous. What you did, you used the core muscles just to split the spine. So what you did there was perfectly safe, but perfectly useless, I think, as well. Did you follow me?
Yeah. So if you want to get more strength in core muscle, what can you do?
Plank.
Only plank?
That's all you need. That's all you need. And then if your activity requires a lot of core, such as the baseball pitcher, you're going to develop that strength. You're going to develop that strength. And you can make the plank more difficult if you want, though I don't know why you would want. How could you make the plank more difficult?
Unstable surface. Unstable surface.
Okay.
On sweet spot.
What?
On sweet spot, unstable.
Yes, that's what you were talking about, right? Make a less stable surface, okay? But in reality, what that's doing is just getting more of the other muscles involved. Okay? Because you got to try to maintain stability in not only that frontal plane, but also in the sagittal and some of the transverse too. So you get a lot more of this going on, and it does increase the amount of muscle being used, but it's not always the core. It's other muscles that you get involved in it. So increasing the on a stability ball may not be actually accomplishing what you're trying to do. But there are things we can do to make it more difficult. Come here, Tree. Show you how to make it tougher. You think you're so good at this? Okay. Can you get into a plank? Now I'm going to make it more difficult for her. You tell me if it's more difficult. Is it tougher?
It's okay.
It's okay. Is it harder though? Is this harder?
Yes.
Is this harder? Very good. You maintain a good position. You're strong. She can not only do a 2-minute plank, she can also do it in increasingly more difficult position. So he is so strong that she doesn't have to do a plank for the next 2 years. Okay? So yeah, if you want to make it more difficult, if you need a stronger core, you might do something like that. When might you see an athlete and say, you need a stronger core? Why would you ever come to that conclusion? baseball pitcher. How would you know that my baseball pitcher needs a stronger core?
When
We can
he cannot do the movement like for the skill, he cannot do well.
Okay. Almost every, well, in the major leagues in the United States, every pitch has a radar gun on it, okay, telling how fast it was thrown. Every pitch now, that's the way it is. Okay, so if you have a pitcher that's throwing 90 miles an hour, okay, 190 kilometers per hour, that's his normal speed, and then he starts losing speed. Okay, instead of 90, it's now 85. 84, 83. For some reason, he's not transferring the force in his legs through the core into his upper body. So once again, here's a case where it's about performance. If he's no longer performing as well, I have got to find out why. Right? And it could be core strength. If the rest of the movements are good, if it looks like a good pitch, but he's still not getting the speed, then you want to look at strength of the individual parts. That's where I might take my baseball pitcher and say, you need to do some planks, or you need to do some elevated planks. Okay? Or you need to do elevated planks on a Bosu ball. Okay? Until that speed comes back up. Does that make sense? But most of us don't have to do planks if we're athletes. If we're very athletic and doing high intensity forces or sports with great force, we don't need planks typically. You have a question?
Yeah. If we, I already read about the sit-up too. That is like it's not to train abdominal muscle. And I have a question that like we can train like curl up.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to. Why would we do curl-ups?
Instead of the sit-up.
She asked me, can I do the curl-up? Oh, instead of the sit-up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say there, is that we understand that there is some risk.
Yeah.
So instead of doing a full sit-up, now we tell people to do a curl-up, right?
Yeah.
Where it's just the spine that is flexed, nothing else. And that will strengthen the rectus abdominis, okay? But at the same time, you're stressing the disc. Every time you curl, you're pinching the anterior portion of that disc. Come back up, come back down. How many times can you do that before it breaks? If I take an iron bar and I bend it, yeah, okay, it's okay for the first 2 million bends, but after a while, it's going to break. Even an iron bar, right? You can break an iron bar. Start today, get an iron bar, and start bending it every single day. And it will break over time. Right? Same thing with this disc. Why am I going to do anything that may eventually result in a ruptured disc? And that's when I look at a sit-up, when I look at a curl-up, that's what I'm thinking. Oh, great. How many times can I do that before I injure myself? Because I will. It will injure. I never advise people do anything but planks if they're worried about core strength.
Also, like we do in the weightlifting.
What about weightlifting?
Yeah, we also like only do plank for the weightlifting.
Do I do plank for weightlifting?
Weightlifting. Yeah.
If I'm a weightlifter and I have to do planks, I'm not lifting any weight anyway. If I have a core that is loose, I'm not lifting weight. I can't push through my legs, through my core, into my shoulders to lift that weight. But by doing, let's say, deadlift, my core is going to get strong. No, I wouldn't do them with either. But I would test them first, right? I would do the test. You can do it. Okay, we don't need to do that. That doesn't need to be part of our training. It's like bicep curls. That's the most useless exercise ever invented. Okay? They have found that if I do deadlifts, okay, I do deadlifts and look at the strength of my biceps, and I do curls and look at the strength of my biceps, I get just as strong biceps doing a deadlift as I do doing isolated bicep curls. So if I'm a deadlifter, why do I need to do curls? Okay. Again, it's about performance. If it doesn't improve my performance, why am I doing it? It's such a waste of time. Right? Same thing with planks. My wife used to do planks every night when she went to bed. Before she went to bed, okay? She would be on the bed, on the floor, doing her plank. She would do it for a minute every night. I said, why are you doing that? You can do it for a minute. Why do you do it every night for a minute? Why not do it like every 2 weeks? Do it for a minute. You have strength to do it for a minute. She never wanted to do more. But again, she did these 1 minute planks every minute or every night. And then guess what? She listened to me, now she never does planks. You gotta be careful who you talk to. Oh. My favorite. The squat. Everyone knows how to do a squat, right? Who knows how to do a squat? You guys are afraid to raise your hands. Because Paul knows it. I'm going to use her as an example. She raised her hand. No, I'm not going to. Okay.
ใครจะทำสควอตให้อาจารย์
Squat is one of our fundamental movements. We got the plank, we got the squat. Do you want to do your squat? And then I can comment? Okay. What do you think? Was that a good squat? Did you like that? Good. How did he start? What was his initial position?
เริ่มจากไหนฮะการทำสควอต
Okay, you see where his feet are? They're pointed out like this. Is that the position they should be in when I'm in spine aligned position? Your feet are turned out. Get them parallel.
เราต้องขนาด
There you go. We want to start with the feet in parallel position. But it depends a little bit on how far the feet are apart. Okay? If I take my legs farther apart, my toe will turn out a little bit because that's how my hip works. So if I have a slightly wider stance, I might have my toes turned out just a little. Right? So your stance is slightly wider than your shoulders, right? It's slightly wider shoulders, so his feet turned out about 5 degrees, okay, is the perfect position. Some people do a sumo squat, right? And they get really wide, then they turn their feet out as well. Okay? That can be an effective squat, all right? But when do I do this in athletic competition? And in my mind, if it can't transfer into real life movements, why am I doing this? If you do a sumo squat, it's much easier to get into that position. But so what? It's a sumo squat. It's not done in real life. Okay? So I might be able to get stronger in the hips because of this squat, but I'm stronger when I'm in this position. This angle is not specific to anything I do in real life. So you want to keep the feet in a position that you're normally going to use. Like when I'm waiting for that tennis serve, okay? Here I am. So feet slightly apart, ready to go, and I'm doing a tiny squat. This translates perfectly to my sport. So he starts off in good position. Now I didn't see you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Did you do that? I did see you externally rotated your shoulders after you did your first one. You got into position. So he's thinking about it, okay? His second one, he started in spine in line position, in perfect position. Then when he went down, he also did a perfect position as well. But his first one, he wasn't aligned. Okay? He was a little bit out of position. And you knew that for some reason. Okay? Probably because he's as an athlete, he's done this before, he's been coached about it, and he's found, just through experience, what the best position is to get the most effective result. Does that sound right? Have you done a lot of squats in your life? Yep. So the first thing he does, external rotates at the hip. Okay? Second thing, tightens up the glutes. Third, he stands up, hips, around the ribs. Then he contracts the core. And depending upon how much weight he's going to lift, he's going to either contract it at 30% at rest, or 50, 60, 70, or 100 if he's trying to lift a lot of weight. Then he packs the shoulders and he's ready to go. Right? Now the other vital thing when you're bending at the knees, when you're lowering your body, is to keep your knee over your toes. Okay? Directly over top. And when you watch him do his squat, when you watch his knees, you'll see that they do. They go directly over his foot and then straight back up. Okay? Want to try it again? Show them what I'm talking about. See his knees? They stay right over his toes. Okay? He doesn't go like this. He doesn't go like this. He doesn't go like this. Okay? The knee stays directly over the foot. And that's the key thing that you need to be looking at when people lower their bodies with their knees. Okay? Okay, find your partner.
โอเคครับเริ่มจากไอ้5สเต็ปนะฮะ5 position เริ่มจากการยืนก่อนนะฮะก็คือถ้าใครยืนเท้าเท่ากับไหล่เนี่ยเท้ามันจะพาราเรลแต่ว่าถ้ายืนกว้างกว่าไหล่นิดนึงก็คือเป็นปกติมันจะชี้ออกด้านนอกนิดนึงปลายเท้านะแล้วก็5สเต็ปนะฮะก็คือ
上一天。
ยืนเท่าไหร่เดี๋ยวก็จะตรงมาดีก็ตามรูปพยายามอย่าให้เข่าเกินปลายเท้านะฮะเข่าห้ามเกินปลายเท้า
คือทิ้งก่อนนะแล้วก็ย่อปกติมันหน่อยได้นิดหน่อยไม่จำเป็นต้องเป็นเกณฑ์จิต
His knee is going a little in front of his toe. You see that? When he went down, his knee went out in front of his toe.
So the knee should be in the toe and not over.
No over at all. Ideally, your shin should stay vertical. Okay? Oops, I'm sorry. Where's my stick? Ideally, the shin should be vertical all the way down. Okay? That's good. Is that all further you can go down? Can you go all the way down?
เราฝึกให้ข้อต่อไหนก่อน
Oh, you're hurt. I'm sorry. You got something. Now a squat. A squat. You should be able to go all the way down, right?
นั่ง
And then back up. That's normal human movement. Stopping it parallel doesn't have any use in our world. Look directly over the feet. Perfect. And look at her back. Perfectly flat. At the bottom, you tend to rotate your hips. There you go. Superman. Spider-Man, I don't know. There you go. That's perfect.
โดนตูดแล้วก็ไปโดนผัก
Okay. There isn't any reason that you shouldn't be able to go all the way down to your butts touching your feet. Okay? There's no reason. If we keep our knees over our feet, that protects our knee joint. Is designed for maximum flexion. So you should be able to go all the way down. What limits people from going all the way down, a lot of times, is flexibility in the hip. And to get down, they end up by rounding their back. And just getting down into a full squat, that's not the outcome we're looking for. We want you to be able to do it with a flat back. If you can't do it with a flat back, that's all the farther you need to be going. Okay? So let's see, who can do it? Huh? That was perfect that time. No. There she turns her hips under.
ช่วยยากตรงเลย
Okay, that was good. That was good.
โยคะ
Hey, that's good. Okay, there you go. Now look, your knees are out in front of your feet. Okay, okay. That's okay, that's great. That's your best one right there. If you have great mobility in your hips and your ankles, you should be able to do it with your feet together. This requires great mobility in hips and ankles. When you got down here, you started rounding your back to get that range. Now at the very bottom, you have a round back. You feel that? There you go. That was good. Okay, that's the idea. Now you're thinking. Okay, you have to fly back the whole time. Now try it with from a sumo position. Okay? And tell me if it's easier to do. And easier?
ชอบห้องน้ำเป็นรู้สึกแต่คือมีคนอยู่หลังคนที่ฟ้า
I would say, right? You can lift more weight with the sumo, right? You can lift more weight. And if I'm a competitive deadlifter, or if I'm a power lifter, and I'm trying to lift as much dead weight as I can, that's why I do the sumo. Okay? But does any other athlete need to be doing sumo deadlifts? No, because it's not specific to any sport. You never do this type of motion. So keep the athlete doing things that imitate their sport, make it specific. Doesn't really matter how much Usain Bolt can deadlift. Doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter a bit. He's standing by this little guy right beside him that can deadlift 400 kilograms. This guy can lift 500 kilograms. He can lift 200. Who cares? He's the fastest runner, right? So whatever number that's on that machine or how many plates you have, it means nothing. Okay? It's just like a way to be able to move better so you can move your activity at your highest level. So don't get caught up in like, okay, today I'm gonna lift a bunch of money, a bunch of weights. Okay, look at all those. I'm something, huh? Don't get stuck in that. You're gonna hurt people, right?
โอเคโดยสรุปก็คือพยายามเลือกท่านะฮะการออกกำลังกายที่มันเรียนแบบนะก็คือท่าที่ใช้ในกีฬานั้นๆจริงๆนะแล้วก็ท่านั้นเนี่ยท่าการออกกำลังกายนั้นเนี่ยก็คือออกกำลังกายแล้วต้องช่วย improve ด้วย performance ถ้าสมมติว่าอย่างที่เขายกตัวอย่างแพงเนี่ยถ้าทำซ้ำๆมันก็ไม่ได้เกิดขึ้นเพราะนั้นท่านั้นอาจจะไม่จำเป็นนะฮะก็นั้นพิจารณาด้วย
Can grandma do a squat? Should I tell my 80-year-old mother-in-law to start doing squats? I want my 80-year-old grandmother to be able to do a squat. Okay? She's still a human. Even though she's 80, she's still human. She still needs to be able to do that movement. Okay? I watch her. I make sure she's in spine in line position. Ask her to go as far as she can. And when she breaks from that, that's it. Back up. If she can't get down far enough, I want to do some things to increase the mobility of her hips, increase the mobility of her ankles, so that she can increase her range of motion. But never, I'm not going to allow her to get out of position. When she breaks position, that's enough. Anyone can do any movement. Anyone can do any exercise. Everyone can do an iron cross on the rings in gymnastics. You know what I'm talking about? Here's the rings and you have people like this. Everyone can do that. Right? Why are you shaking your head? What if I put an elastic band, the strings and down to my feet, rubber band. Okay? That supported my weight. Can I do an iron cross now? Yes, I can. Grandma can too. I'm gonna need a very heavy band, so a lot of stretch. But anyway. Let's take a break. I don't want to. You need a break. No. As often as I can, how to sit in a chair. And they look at me, wait, why are you teaching me how to sit in a chair? I know how to sit in a chair, watch. I've been doing sitting in chairs my whole life. But again, I'm concerned about how long these joints are gonna last. And if I do a perfect squat every time, my knees will never wear out. They'll never show any signs of wear. I'll be able to maintain my strength throughout my whole life. And that's what I want to do. I don't want to get to be, well, I already get there for. I don't want to get to be 80 years old and I can't sit in my chair anymore. Right? So, stand up, if you would. It might be difficult with your chairs as they sit there. But you should be okay. Don't worry. What I tell people is start by putting the spine in line. Okay? The spine in line?
Spine line.
Now when I go down, I'm going to find the chair with my butt. Okay? And the whole time, my shin is going to be vertical. You understand that? So when I go down, I'm going to do my squat, and I'm going to, where's that chair? I'm going to find the chair. Okay, where is it? Where is it? Oh, that's not it. Where is it? Oh, there it is. And I'm going to sit on the chair. Okay? When I get out of the chair, I'm going to flex my hip as far as I need to get my center of gravity over top my feet. I'm going to reverse it. Knees over toes. Sit back. Find the chair. Take your weight. And then extend the hip. You guys are good sitters.
How about one leg? One leg?
One leg. Why? I would never do a one-legged sit in my chair. Every time when I sit in a chair, I'm always thinking, I want to do the perfect squat. Okay? Every time I stand up, perfect squat. And if I keep my knees over top of my toes, I never have to worry about knee pain or injury. All I have to do is exert muscular force to stand up. When I get out of the chair, I bend at the hips as far as I need to get to a position where I can stand up. You don't want to get in a chair like this one. It's real easy just to flop down, right? Then you get up. You can do that. It works. People get away with it, but it's not great for the joints. Okay? And for me to protect my joints, I got to do the same thing. I got to find my position, reach back with my hips, find it, and sit down. Okay? And when I get out of it, I do the exact same thing. Another thing, I've noticed me doing this when I drive my car. We have a steering wheel on the left side in the United States, right? So when I get out of the car, I've got to put one foot out first, right? And then basically what I'm doing is a single leg squat. So I make sure my knee is over my foot. I put it out, knee over my foot, then I lean, put my weight over this one leg, and then I do a single leg squat. This leg doesn't have anything to do with it. But I'm always thinking, put my leg in position, lean over top, bend the hips, back flat, step up, so in one-legged squat. If I don't do this, if I put this knee out of position, or I try to push with this leg, my knee is not over my foot, this knee is not over, and all it does is cause increased chance of injury. And then I usually have to do something like this. Use my arms to help me up. As I get out, I look like an old man. I don't like that. So in order to stay youthful, I follow my rules. Yeah, that's another one. I've tried that one too, right? Get up here, turn all the way around. But that looks ridiculous. I have to worry about my reputation. Squat. You gotta do really well with that one. really well. You already know how to do squats. And since this is a partial squat, it's not too difficult at all. Okay? Teach your children how to get out of their chairs. Another thing, I watch you guys when you're sitting. Is this comfortable? Yeah, it is, isn't it? Is this good for my back? Why not? I'm in flexion, right? And so the front of my discs are being pinched. This isn't good for my back, but kind of we get used to it over time. We get used to this bad posture, and it kind of feels good. Okay? And it's okay. I mean, if I ask you, to sit in a good sitting position with the back flat, okay, this is what it looks like, right? But how many people is going to sit in a chair like this for 8 hours? Right? So what we do, we use the back of the chair to support us. Okay? As long as we keep our back flat, that's perfectly fine for the spine. The only challenge I have here is that my head is not quite in line. Okay? So if I extend the hips, keep my back flat, and then lean against the back of the chair, I maintain that spine in line position with my back, but as my head has a little bit out. But if I just want to rest for a little while, I might use this position. But at no point do you want to use the back of your chair to support your whole body. See what I'm doing? I'm sitting here, and the chair is built, this one is. It's built with a nice little curve in there, so you can kind of snuggle in. And my whole back is supported here. But even though I'm supported, I'm using no muscular energy to maintain this position, I'm still in a flexed position. My spine is still flexed. So sitting in a chair is not really good for us. Okay? So you got to always be aware of your sitting position. Okay? You guys are looking really good now. Nice position. But here's another example. I mean, if you constantly did this, if you constantly sat in a healthy position, okay, you would develop those motor patterns, and it would become instinctual, and you wouldn't have to think about it. Okay? But until you do, you have to think about it. And when I said, okay, great position, the reason is because he's thinking about it. Okay, I reminded him, and then he got into that perfect position. Okay? But over time, if you normally sit like this, you're going to fall into that. And it's your responsibility to identify you're in a bad position and then correct it. And you have to keep correcting it until it becomes a habit. Okay? And if you do that, your spine is going to last forever. You're not going to get back pain, unlikely, okay? Or you're going to reduce the chances of it. Okay? The squat. Perfect squat. When you were that age, you did perfect squats. You look at any kid. I love to do this. Whenever I see a kid in a squat position, I just look at that and I just go, isn't that beautiful? You see everything right. Perfectly flat back, head in line, okay? The feet are together. The knees are over top of the toes. Perfect position. And when he comes out of this, he keeps everything in the spine and line position the whole time. We knew how to do it because that's the most effective position to be in. This is the way humans are made to move. But we lose that knowledge. We change things as we get older because we're not reinforced. People don't tell us. And look how low he goes, man. He's all the way down. There's the crease of his hips. There's his knee, and it's actually lower. He's all the way down. If you can look like that, you're super. You look very young, but you still look good. Do you have CrossFit here? You in Malaysia or in Thailand, you have CrossFit gyms? One of the criticisms of CrossFit is that almost all of the activities are in the sagittal plane. All of it is sagittal plane stuff. And when we're doing most of our sports and most of our activities, we use all the planes. How often do we do that in life? Next fundamental movement is called the lunge. Again, it's done the same way. Start with aligning the spine. Then you need to step out far enough so that when you lower your body, your forward knee stays over your foot. The biggest error I see when people are doing lunges is that they don't go out far enough. Okay, so when they go down, their forward knee has to go over their foot. Okay. That hurt when I did that right there. Okay. So you need to get wide, long enough so when you go down, your front shin stays vertical. Okay. And then the lunge is an up and down movement, not a forward and back. You'll see people doing lunges like this. Okay? Reaching out and moving the whole body forward. Doing that causes the femur to move over top of the tibia. And the way to resist that is with your patellar tendon, okay, and your cruciate ligaments, particularly. And we don't want those working any harder than they have to. So we're going to step out far enough, drop straight down, and straight back up. Okay? Let's see us do it. Okay, go.
นี่ไงมือดีละข้างเนี่ยก็มันจะลุก
ตั้งใจ
You get away from you guys. You're bad influence. But seriously, I mean, when you do things in line, there's no risk of even being sore. Okay, if you're conditioned for it. But if you start putting them out of position, then things really get screwed up. Okay? And right now, my back is all crooked and my legs are in pain. When I normally do these things every day, that never happens. Okay? Next one is the push-up. Everyone knows how to do push-ups, right? Can your grandma do push-ups? Say yes, she can. She's human. How do I allow grandma to do push-ups? Yep, you got to modify it. Okay? A push-up is simply a plank that moves. Okay? You start your position in a plank, from head to toe, plank. Okay? Then when you lower the body, you need to externally rotate the shoulders, and the best position for pushing is with the elbows against the body. So an ideal push-up looks just like this. If we push our elbows out, it internally rotates the shoulder, put it at risk. So we need to keep it in here. Sometimes it's called the military push-up. Why would the military do push-ups like this? This position is also the best position for pushing. How many of you ever got your car stuck in the snow? Well, you don't get snow here. So. Car stuck in the mud, and you had to push it out. Okay? What position did you get in? Right? Your elbows were down here. You didn't push it out like this. Okay? You didn't get into this winged push-up position and try to push your car out. That's not the best way. This is the most effective way. So when you're doing a push-up, you need to be able to keep the shoulders in. If you had a piece of paper, it shouldn't fall out. Okay? Who can't do a push-up? Can everybody do push-ups? No. Can you do push-up?
Yes.
I'm sure you can do push-up. Let me see your push-up. I'm picking on you though, because you're the only name I know. Let's see if you gotta get in a position where you can see mine. Okay? Watch your push-up. Tell me if she's doing an effective push-up.
Can I put my
No. Okay, that's good. That's good. Rest. The first one she did, she had the strength to do whatever she called it. I think it was a push-up. The second one, she didn't have the strength. Okay, so she had to stop right there. I'm not going to let her do any more until she gets perfect technique. Okay? What was she doing that needs to be corrected? Okay, first of all, was she in a perfect plank position? Was she in a spine in line position? No, she had her hips up a little bit, right? Anything else? She didn't have her shoulders externally rotated, so we saw her scapula sticking up, right? So there's two things you weren't doing. You weren't contracting the glutes, and you didn't have a packed shoulder. Okay? So I need to get her into a perfect spine in line position before she even begins. Okay? And she got into it so fast, she went down there and did her push-up before I could correct her initial position. Okay? And if her initial position isn't good, it's going to take strength away from her push-up. I guarantee you that if she gets into a perfect spine in line position, she's going to be able to do 2 push-ups, where before she only did 1. I want to see 2 push-ups. Let's start. Don't do a push-up until I tell you. Are you in line? Is she in line? Is she packed? I think she is. Okay, go ahead. She maintained the spine in line position. Okay? Now I let her do that push-up anyway, even though she was making one mistake, right? You know what that is. Why would your elbows out? Why not? Why did she stick her elbows out? Yes. She wasn't strong enough to just use her triceps and her latissimus dorsi to get up. Okay? So what she did was she brought the elbows out, and that brought in more of the pectoralis major, okay? More of the teres major, more muscle mass to contribute. Okay? But that's not good enough, because when she did this, it internally rotated her shoulders. It put her shoulders at risk. So I'm going to insist that she maintain her elbows against her side. I want you to try again. Okay? Maintain spine in line. See what happens. Shoulders in, or elbows at your ribs. Go ahead. Now, the first attempt she did, How many push-ups?
แทง
One. Second one, she did one. This one, she did 0. This one was the best one, right? I'm not concerned with outcomes. Okay? Being able to do a push-up is meaningless in the real world. What activity do you ever do this? Right? You don't. Okay? So being able to complete a number of push-ups is meaningless. What's important is that she maintains the perfect position for the most effective. Now she's not strong enough to do a push-up. So we got to modify it. Okay? How do we modify it? We could do the knee, okay? But when you use the knee, if you're on the knee, you can't tighten up the glute. Okay?
Standing push-up. Standing push-up. Walk.
That's one. Okay. Okay. You know what you're doing now, okay? What I would have her to do is to start here on the table. Oh no, this is going to make a mess. No, we don't want to do that. Start on this table. Okay? And now get in a position and then do your push-up. Why are you up on your toes? There you go. What does that look like? Why are you reaching your head over? She might be too far away or too close to the table. Step back a little bit. Because I want her shoulders directly over. Can you get your elbows in tighter? Look, we can't hold paper in here.
ถ้าหนีบได้ไปเลยหนีบได้เลยไม่ปลอด
Why are you having trouble?
ขึ้นอยู่กับว่า motivation
ใช่
mindset
ยิ่ง5,000นะหนีบแน่นเลยไม่ปล่อย
That makes no sense. Look, you can touch it. Oh, because you're on the angle. Yeah. Very good. Stand now. Was that a good push-up? Was that a good push-up? Come on, you're the scientist.
not yet
You're the biomechanist. You should know.
not yet
Why not?
It's too close to the table and because the shoulder is too high the eye not
Okay, so what would you tell her to do?
So for me, I do the step a little bit backward and go more lean. It's easier to do. Because the ankle to the shoulder is too high.
Okay. Well, because you're right. I mean, because this is a different angle, it's a slightly different push-up. Okay, but she can still do the technique that I'm asking her to do, even though her arms might be a little bit higher. Okay, and so what I'm looking for is for that spine in line position, a perfect plank up and down, and when she comes down, her elbows stay against her sides. That's all I'm looking for. That's all a push-up is. Can she do that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What do you think? You guys aren't real confident. Is that a good push-up?
Yeah, good.
Do it again. They're not confident. Is that so she keeps her elbows in? Okay.
ลอยมีแขนลอย
That's a good push-up, right? That's a good push-up. She couldn't do it on the floor. She wasn't strong enough. When I modify it and put it in an angle, she is now strong enough. Okay? She did it in perfect position. Now I can train her strength. I can train her endurance. I I can train her metabolism with a push-up because now she can do it perfectly. But down there, I can't use that exercise. And when grandma does them, am I going to do it here? No, I'm not, am I? Grandma can't do a push-up down there. I might push her against the wall, right? Instead of having this angle, I might start with this angle. So grandma might be doing push-ups like this. Again, it's kind of high, so it doesn't look like our one on the ground. But this is a grandma push-up. It's going to strengthen those muscles that we're trying to strengthen with a normal push-up. And anyone can do any exercise, even you might. Okay? That's good. We're going to quit. It's 4:30. I know you're tired of this. You're tired of me. I'm not tired of you. I want to go all night, but I got to have you back tomorrow, so I got to give you some rest. Okay, before we go, do you have any questions? Last time we had 2 questions. No questions. What you'll find is if this session made you sore, if tonight, so you're lying in bed, or tomorrow morning when you get up, or the next day, and you're a little bit sore, that's an indication that you've been doing something you're not used to. So your technique hasn't been perfect in the past. If you wake up tomorrow and you feel perfectly fine, then you probably have good technique already. So test yourself. Test yourself. Being sore, in my idea, it's my idea that being sore is not normal. If an activity made you sore, then you did it wrong. You did too much. You did it in the wrong manner. You did it too often. You did something that your body couldn't tolerate. We need to overload, but our overloads don't have to be but just a little bit more than what we're used to. If I do a huge overload, that's not going to make me any stronger than a small one. I'm already sore. I'm already sore. And the reason is because I'm doing things my body normally doesn't do. Normally, I move perfectly. Never make a mistake. Okay, tomorrow morning when we arrive, we're going to learn how to run. Wait a second. I know how to run. I'm going to show you a video of one of the world's best athletes. And this best athlete should have been taught how to run a long time ago. Okay? Instead, he has very inefficient running technique. If someone would have showed him how to run when he was young, he might have even been better than he is today. So we're going to show you that when we start out. So come tomorrow with your sneakers, okay, so that you can do a little bit of running. Won't be a lot, don't worry. I'm not going to make you tired or anything. Just going to work on the technique. Because I think every human being should be able to run. Now you don't need to be a runner. Okay? You don't need to use running as a way to maintain your fitness, but you need to have that skill. You need to know how to run skillfully. So when you do have to run, like you run away from a bus, okay, or you need to run and stop your child from going out in the street, you need to have that technique if you're a fully functioning human. So that's what we'll do tomorrow. Teach you how to run, show you the tricks that you need to teach other people too. Okay, I'm done.